Ashes of Ariandel is the new Dark Souls 3 DLC that just came out. Came out a little early. And it is a sort of snowy, high level, very challenging new area with some pretty cool enemies like wolves that howl and bring other wolves, so you can get just swarmed by freaking wolves. Um, Creepy trees that shoot fire and frost at you and grab you with their tentacles. Great big lumbering knights and these really freaky, long, spindly legged guys with big old nasty Vega claws that make you bleed and are really fast. So lots of difficult, challenging enemies, tough bosses, and kind of a cool, snowy, haunting world, the painted world of Ariandel, which, is like the painted world of Ariamis in the original Dark Souls. Um, so kind of what I was thinking, and as I played this and as I got deeper into it, I was thinking, I, I wish I was more excited about this because on its face, it's kind of everything you hope for with Dark Souls DLC. Tough enemies, new area, new weapons and gear. But as I play, I find myself kind of going through the motions a little bit and kind of wondering why. And it strikes me that part of this is that I'm just not getting the same feeling of struggle and purpose and I'm not finding that same kind of meaning that I found in the original Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Um, Part of this, and this isn't just the DLC. As I thought about this more, I realized this is largely also really the whole of Dark Souls 3. And I love Dark Souls 3. I thought it was an improvement over Dark Souls 2, but then I found out that I really have played a lot less of it than Dark Souls 2 and a whole lot less than the original Dark Souls. Why is that? And partly I think it's because Dark Souls 3 relies too much on nostalgia. But partly also, I think it's that there's an easy mode built into Dark Souls 3. It's not that the enemies aren't tough or the bosses or whatever, but the ability to fast travel right out the gates and the ability to find just bonfires everywhere and then just hop between them or go back to the Firelink Shrine with magic fast travel. I think it. This may sound extreme, but I think it absolutely ruins the game. I think this happened in Dark Souls 2 also. I think teleportation kills this sense of place and struggle that you find in Dark Souls, the original game. And let me give you an example. Pretty much the whole way from the Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 1 through the Undead Burg to the Undead Chapel, past the bridge with the Wyvern. Um, that when you first play that, and even when you come back to it, yeah, it is a gauntlet you run. It is a test of your mettle, and it scares people away who can't handle that level of challenge. But it's also so rewarding because of a couple things. First, there's that shortcut where you kick the ladder down, and that shortcut, man, it lets you skip so much that you've been struggling through. And when you do that and you get that shortcut and you can kind of move forward finally, that it's just, I tell you, it's a feeling I've rarely had in a video game. But then that's not the only time that you feel that, because once you get to that undead chapel and you get to the lift and you go back down and you find yourself at the Firelink Shrine, it's I mean, it's so cool. Like, it is one of the coolest things in video games. You've worked your whole way back around, and in between there's the Firelink Shrine, and you fight your way up, and you fight your way up, and you get to the bonfire. You fight your way around, and you get to the shortcut that brings you back to the bonfire, and then you fight your way back up, and you get to a second bonfire, which is up there by the chapel, and and then of course there's the next bonfire is way past that at the blacksmith. But there's not a lot of bonfire. I mean, this is a long stretch between bonfires, and to come all the way around and then take a lift down back to where you started is just, it's kind of extraordinary. I mean, and you get this sense that everything is really connected. I mean, and later when you're fighting those crystal golems, and you're down by the Hydra, and you can look up and see the bridge where the Wyvern's at, and then you can find the door where Havel's at, and you can go back up the tower, and it's just, that is some of the finest game design I've ever experienced, and much more than the challenge of the game. What that did for me as a gamer was just create something so unique, to build a 3D world that was just looped around and interwoven and interconnected. And that was never done again. The closest thing is in Bloodborne. Um, but in Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, you never feel like, okay, from the blacksmith bonfire, I have to now run back through, past the knights, the undead burg, and back down to unlock this door now that I couldn't unlock earlier. I have to fight my way back through areas I've already been. And some people say, well, that's tedious. But I don't think so. Fighting your way back to unlock a door that you couldn't unlock before is very Metroidvania, but in a 3D world. So it's taking that great stuff that the Metroid and Castlevania games did way back when, bringing it into a 3D world and really just creating such a sense of place and a sense of wonder at that place. And that's just not in Dark Souls 3. I mean, you literally can walk across a bridge and find another bonfire. Both sides of the bridge. There are areas in the main game where you find a bonfire and you walk just down a corridor, basically, and there's another freaking bonfire. And to me, it's like, Miyazaki was working on this game. Was he so concerned with giving players a sense of satisfaction, and decided that part of that was just making it less difficult, because his philosophy before was a difficult game is rewarding, because you beat that challenge, and you get a sense of satisfaction from overcoming a challenge. But man, if you go back in time, you go back to Demon Souls, you'd find the Nexus shards, the checkpoints basically. There'd be one, and then you'd fight your way through the entire level and come to the boss and beat the boss, and then you'd find another one. There was nothing in between. All there would be, if there was at all, was a shortcut or some way of unlocking. Like in the very first level of the Boletarian Palace, you work your way through the left side of that sort of castle complex, and ultimately you can open a shortcut to get back up there easier. And then finally you pull a lever and open the door to the boss, and then that run to the boss is easy. But other levels further in, there's not nearly as much of a shortcut, and you have to really fight your way almost all the way through the level, beat the boss, get to the next checkpoint. It's very difficult. Dark Souls actually probably took that difficulty level down a notch for the most part. And there's bonfires between bosses. But think of the Undead Burg and how that one bonfire serves so many functions. One bonfire is used for such a long time. You never find another bonfire. When you finally do, it really matters. And so much of what Dark Souls does, and Demon Souls, is give you that sense that you've overcome some great odds, some great obstacle. You've wandered and explored and finally found this shortcut, and now you're back to this safe place. And you sit down at the fire and you see the wisps of other players sitting at the fire, and there's almost a camaraderie, a silent camaraderie, while you sit there and think, my God, we did it. We made it back safe. We're resting. And then we're going to go back out. Now, Dark Souls 3 shatters that a lot of times, because you get up from the bonfire, you walk a little ways, there's another bonfire. And the world never feels as interconnected. Fast travel, it made it harder for that world to even need to be connected that way, because you can just fast travel. It falls into that trap, not as bad, but that open world trap where you can just hop around the map, and the map can be basically, for all intents and purposes, flat. At least Dark Souls 3 isn't flat. There's a lot of verticality, but it's not like the original Dark Souls. And this DLC just kind of threw that into focus for me, I think, because I'd taken a break and had some time to sit away from the game, and I come back to it, and while I still love it, and I still, it's a great challenge, and I'm a little rusty coming back into it now. It's also a letdown. Something's missing. something of the nature of that game, that core, that soul of Dark Souls, has not been here since the original. And it's sad because we have 3 Dark Souls games now, and only one of them really holds to that truth that I think, that unique beauty of the original just has not carried on into the sequels. So it may be for the best that the series is ending, and hopefully, From Software and maybe even other developers who can think about creating these intensely focused and interconnected 3D worlds that really do reward struggle, exploration, and overcoming the odds. Hopefully that we can see more of that in game design, whether or not it's in a Souls series. So, anyways, that's all I have to say on that. Peace.